Welcome everybody to the latest episode of Muscle Out Talks. This week we're talking quite a serious issue, quite an important issue as well, because it's an issue that, well, Michaela, you've always spoken about it, a lot, and a lot of cases where it's been threatened and possibly happened, and it's something that's always really surprised me because we see really good care in this country, and sometimes the standards can slip and sometimes they can be threatened to slip. This is quite a big topic. I don't know, John, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, sure. So the reason it's so topical to us right now is because one of the trustees of DMD Pathfinders, who I work for, is a 31-year-old guy, Robert Watson, living with Duchenne, and basically he's been in hospital because he had to have a tracheostomy and quite a massive change in his care needs, and he's now at a point where they're looking to move him out of hospital, and he always assumed that he would just be going back home to live with his parents as he was previously, but he's now basically been told that that arrangement would be too expensive to put care in place in his home, and that he now has to actually face the prospect of being put into a nursing home, and it's very much against his will, and it's really damaging, to be honest, just in terms of health and well-being, but also it just doesn't actually make sense from a kind of health or cost perspective when you look at everything. But it's just part of this wider issue, and I think a lot of people have faced that threat. I certainly did when I was trying to get 24/7 care. But, they did at one point talk about care homes, but I fought back against that quite vigorously, and I'm so glad I did. But it's like this kind of threat that hangs over you, and I think we know how to do really good social care in this country, but all too often the experience of actually having social care is kind of, particularly for me, I know for others as well, is great, but you've always got that lingering kind of fear and anxiety that it might be taken away at any point. And this is just not a way to live. And the problem is that there's no guaranteed right to independent living, and that's where things start to fall down, really, because we can't know that this is secure. It just takes the next round of budget cuts, and then suddenly the support we rely on to just live a kind of good quality life could just be withdrawn at any time. It's really damaging.
And if you think about the ideas of taking risks, he took a risk of getting a tracheotomy, that would potentially make his life better. And that then put him in danger of losing the care that he already has in his current life situation. I think that's a crazy situation.
Yeah, it is.
And so just to clarify, how old is he with Duchenne muscular dystrophy?
He's 31.
31. So that's the thing, again, that I think, when we talk about Duchenne muscular dystrophy, that's the thing that strikes me as to when people are diagnosed at the age of 4, and all these things that we're told, slow deterioration of the muscles and everything else, it really isn't emphasized that these problems can arise. At the age of 30, you can be kind of threatened with having to go into a care home. That's just completely out of sight, out of mind to all the stuff so much of the stuff that's spoken about.
Yeah.
I mean, Michaela, this is something that you've spoken about a lot in the past, isn't it? And again, something that when it was first brought up with me talking to you about it was really surprising to me, because it was something that was so normal to you, the threat of having to be put in a care home, but something on the outside to me was certainly very surprising.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how commonplace this is, and it is quite commonplace. I've had it multiple occasions, and I've had a real strong fight back against that, and the fact that it deprived me of my liberty, and that's something that it's developed and it goes in the legal side, that, where are your legal protections from this? But my main concern is that with Brexit, our protection from that is going to wane, and we're not going to have as much as we do now. that's certainly a big concern in everyone's head. So what are we going to do in terms of making sure that within the legislation, within the UK, people are protected and are able to live safely in the environment in which they want to live. It's also important to note that there's three kind of distinct types of living arrangements that people with disabilities can have. They can live at home with their family or in their own home with a care package. They can live in assisted living, which is usually a communal house with a number of people with similar disabilities that have a care package in, and they use the care package amongst themselves. And then you have the care home, and the care home is what we all think of it. It's the elderly people or really ill people who are in a care home and really don't really have that much more to live, and they don't really leave that care home very often. That might be the right place for some people, but I don't think it's the right place for anybody who's living with a disability that's long-term that they've had for the majority of their lives, and who can live an active, productive economic and social life. And that's where we hit a snag. I don't believe that anybody with a disability like mine should be within a care home, full stop.
Yeah.
So for you, it's either living in independent living or living with a family, or assisted living. So somewhere where, yeah.
I've always said, I mean, it's a controversial view, but I've always said even those with the most severe disabilities can live independently within assisted living. And I don't think you should be able to do that against your will either. If someone wants to live in a hut in the middle of a desert, they should be facilitated as far as possible to do that. I don't advocate that, but it's about free will and liberty and being able to lead an active and a really productive life that is good for everyone, not just me or John or Robert. Is good for everybody.
Yeah, I certainly think from a human rights point of view, that's crazy almost to use that threat to say, this is going to have to happen to you, particularly when someone's at quite a vulnerable point in their life, when they've just had quite a serious operation or surgery, like a tracheostomy. That's when they should have the most care given to them, not having to be worrying about how they're going to get by from day to day. Yeah, I don't know. John, is this something that you're familiar with? What do you think that we should, society should put together as the steps to sorting this out?
Yeah, well, I mean, I completely agree in terms of you've got to look at what people need as well for their wider health. And it's not cost effective to put people in nursing homes against their will, because take one example. Think about the cost in mental health support that you're going to need to put in place, because people are being forced to do something against their will and not able to kind of live with their parents. It's like when you're going through transformative health issues, then you need your family around you to support you. You need to be in a familiar setting, and you need to be able to kind of manage your recovery and do it in a healthy way. Otherwise, the consequent impact on cost is just going to go way up. So there's lots of different sides to this. There's a moral side in that, we shouldn't be forcing people to live in settings that they don't want to live in. But then there's also, the cost-effective side as to kind of let's look beyond simple care costs and let's look at the kind of longer-term impact of not supporting someone properly. And I think really, as a society, we need to think, what do we value and kind of what would we want if we were in for every non-disabled member of society, what would they want to be supported with if they became disabled? And I think, if I wasn't in this situation, I would still very much want to be in a society where we supported people who need care to get it. And I think the vast majority of people would agree that this is where we should be prioritizing. I do take the argument that there are financial limitations, but really, it's about our priorities as a society, and we need to address that. I think it's really scary to me kind of how far backwards we've gone since, about 2008 or what have you. And we're just going in completely the wrong direction. This is not the society that I want to live in.
Yeah.
I'd move if I could, but I can't because I require care, and you can't. No, you're not going to be able to do it with that. But
But do you not
yeah,
think as well
it's just
that,
shocking.
particularly in the society that we're in at the moment, where we're pushing for cures and treatments more than ever and ever before, and the force is on, like one of the last episodes we did was life expectancy. There's almost this obsession with trying to get people to live as long as possible. Yet at the
Yeah.
same point, it's almost we forget, wait a minute, when they're living as long as possible, what are we going to do to make their life worthwhile? And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's the thing for me, which
Mm.
is, when we have young children with DMD and we're thinking, gosh, let's let them live into adulthood and beyond. That's the thing. It certainly seems like from a practical standpoint as well, there needs to be a lot addressed with how care is administered, because as we always go back to, care with DMD patients is so often administered in large part by familial care, by one or both parents. And it seems like there's this new almost this new problem that's coming in, that kind of DMD patients are living so long that parents are becoming elderly, and kind of unable to, naturally unable to lift 30, 40-year-old men around and fulfill all the care needs. So it sort of seems like when people reach that point, not only have you done free care work for your son for all these years, but now that you're at an age where you can no longer do these things, your son's going to go into a nursing home. That's crazy, and I think that's just an added sort of thing to the whole ball game of, it's not right that parents, the onus is being put on the parents. Is that's kind of like the end bit as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this is a good point to jump in. I was lucky enough to be at a conference on Friday, and Sinn Féin President Jerry Adams was speaking, and he said every one of us at some point, any one of us at any point could become disabled, and I want to be able to live with my disability as well as the person I see walking down the street. And this was Jerry Adams speaking, and he was talking about the threats and things like that in terms of disability rights. And it made me think, why are we prioritising cost of care over the productiveness of keeping someone at home, or giving them the care that they need, and then getting taxed in return, and all the societal benefits. And that was the other thing he said, disability and tackling the issues around it is a societal problem. It's not a political problem, and it's certainly not my problem. It's the whole of society's. We live in a more diverse society now than we ever did, and it was really only back in the 70s, 80s that disabled people weren't put in homes at birth. So why are we doing it now when they're too sick to manage at home? Why are we all of a sudden backtracking? And, I think that everyone in power needs to have a really not hard think about whether they want to go back to the days of institutionalisation or not against people's wills. If I chose to go, we are fine, but I'm not choosing to go there. I'm choosing to stay in my home like Robert and like John. So it's not a decision that should be taken away from someone. And I remember sitting thinking on Friday how powerful that was and how relevant that is to almost any of the challenges that we face as the disabled community in the UK.
Yeah, no, absolutely. John, what are the steps forward from here? What's your view of how things should move forward, and what are the steps forward from your point of view?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think as individuals, we need to challenge these kind of decisions where they're being made, and on the basis of cost effectiveness, but also on the moral basis as well. In terms of Robert, we're starting a petition. We're going to kind of make sure he gets the support and advocacy that he needs. We'll work with other organisations to do that. And, it's challengeable for an individual, definitely. I successfully challenged it for myself and got the support I needed. So, we can do it, but at a certain point, we can't just keep looking at this at an individual basis. We've got to think as a society, what do we need to do? And, the funding needs to be there in order to put decent care in place. because
Yeah.
all the time the funding isn't, then it's it's siloed in these small council decisions. Like, we got this pot of money that's got to stretch this far, and so we can't make the decision that to support everyone. So we need to have a wider conversation about what exactly is happening. We need to make sure we actually have a right to independent living, and we need to make sure we have the resources to back it up. And that can only happen at central government or devolved governments in this case, because it's in Scotland. That's got to happen at that level. And actually, we do seem to be moving further away from putting decent levels of support in place, kind of at Westminster level. It's far more, the argument is much more about what the costs are and cutting costs, and regardless of the fact that we're spending billions on things that arguably we don't actually need. But yeah, this is happening in Scotland, where actually they're supposed to be more progressive. So this is a conversation that needs to happen universally, and it's not just about left or right wing. It's about the society that we're living in. It's about making sure that when people pay taxes, that's actually going to they know that when they need support, they can actually rely on the state to provide it. And I think there needs to be some level of safety net there, and it's a wider discussion that we've got to have around social care funding, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's the biggest thing. It shouldn't, even if, as we say, often people can overcome these situations and can secure their funding in the end. It should never be allowed to be threatened. Just as on the other side of the coin, it shouldn't really be allowed to be threatened that if we have drugs that people can take, potential therapies, treatments, then they should be threatened to, no, we don't have funding. On the other side of it, it should never be the threat. Even if you end up not having your human rights taken away from you, they shouldn't be threatened to be taken away from you. In many ways, to me, it seems like it really is just as bad.
That's why we need a right to independent living enshrined in UK law and actually implemented.
That's definitely something I think we should work towards. Okay, well, yeah, that's another really good episode, guys. Obviously, something that we're going to be talking about a lot over the coming weeks and months. Link to the campaign petition below. We put anything else we should add below?
No, just the petition for now.
But now, sign the petition, and more things coming up, and we'll let you know how it all goes. I don't know, maybe you've had something similar. Maybe you've been threatened with having to move into a care home or a nursing home or a place against your will. Let us know, because this is something that we've really got to work towards to sort out. Right. We'll see you all soon, guys. Bye.
Bye.